Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Spicy Dice Boys. This is Zach, and I'll be your host again for another battle report from Brawler Bash 2024. This is round three. We're currently in second place, and we're playing against first place. We have drawn Todd Wyatt and his Warriors of Chaos. In this mission, this round, we're just basically killing our opponent underneath 50% unit strength, and you get some bonus victory points at the end of the game. The format is 2,000 points, with only kill points really mattering. You can lose all your games as long as you slaughter tons of stuff. You're good to go. Um, Todd is the local TO in the Mid Atlantic. He does run the Richmond Open, which is actually going to be happening, I think, May 3rd for 2025. He's an awesome opponent, great hobbyist and painter, as you're going to see from his winter themed army coming up here. He's an old 8th edition player. He played Skaven in 8th edition, whereas I played the Wood Elves. Lots of games under his belt. We actually met again over at the Nova Open. This is Todd here on the left. In the center, we have Young Duke, another great hobbyist, and myself and Brad. And we all did pretty well at one of the events at the Nova Open. Great group of people. If you ever want to come out to some of these events in the Mid Atlantic, I highly advise doing so. But yeah, my list does remain unchanged. The one thing I will highlight about this list again for this particular game is the Dragon Slaying Sword on my Glade Lord on a Dragon. Um, I was trying to bank on it for this game, so Todd did bring a dragon. I have a Dragon Slaying Sword. See what happens. The rest of the list is some shooting, a little bit of Wild Riders, a little bit of Sisters, and a level 4 caster. Todd's list. Todd's rocking a Chaos Lord on a Dragon with a Brazen Collar for magic resistance, Enchanting Aura giving always strikes last, and an Ogre Blade to do good amounts of damage. This being one of the early tournaments in the old world, this actually turned out to be a pretty go-to staple build for the Dragon, so it was pretty nice to find that out pretty early on in the game. Level 4 Sorceress with Zeech with an Infernal Puppet, making your opponent's spells harder to cast. And then a lot of knights, 6 chosen knights, 6 regular knights, some warriors where the wizard's going to go, a single dragon ogre. A lot of chaos lists nowadays, you'll see a lot more dragon ogres, but only one here and one chaos giant. Now, this picture here, a little bit of deployment I'll talk about first. The Warriors of Chaos deployed in that kind of tight formation, kind of in the center, where you had both sets of knights, the dragon, the warriors. On the left-hand side, you had the giant kind of protecting the left flank. On the right side, you had the single dragon ogre kind of holding down the right side. For the Wood Elf side of things, I did deploy in kind of a thin line with Wild Riders in front of each of the corresponding things, like a giant, the knights, or the warriors, trying to send them in to those particular matchups. I tried to use the woodland terrain that I can bring to kind of focus the chaos to kind of come into an area. I don't know if that was actually good for me, but it seemed like it was a good idea at the time. I did use the eagle on the right hand side to try to block up one of my wild riders from having to frenzy check. Yeah, I didn't want them to kind of get tied up in some of that terrain. Um, yeah, so luckily I did roll up Plague of Rust because I'm taking Elementalism where I have to roll my spells. Luckily the Wood Elves did roll up Plague of Rust, which should be a help with all this armor that the Chaos are bringing. So onwards into Chaos turn 1. Kind of continuing on this picture, the giant marched up on the left hand side. The dragon ogre marched up on the right hand side. Kind of got a better angle to kind of see what's going on. The knights didn't go up very far. He kind of wanted to keep pace with his warrior block with the wizard, and the dragon also moved up in range of frenzy checking my wild riders. Basically, with frenzy in this edition, if you are able to declare a charge, you have to. So wild riders are potentially a huge liability with frenzy. Let's go ahead and scoot forward. So with the Wood Elves, bottom of turn 1, I was forced to charge that giant. And on the left-hand side, the Wild Riders in the center were forced to charge either the Dragon or the Chosen Knights. I went ahead and picked the Chosen Knights over the Dragon. The Glade Riders on the left-hand side, they kind of motored all the way up and trying to prepare to do some shooting on the flank. My Eagle did fly on the right-hand side to get to the flank of the Warrior block to kind of, threaten some potential charges later in the future. I did grow a set of woods in the center here to block that dragon from getting some good charges on some measly archers. And I think I scored some wounds shooting at the warriors. Hopefully that block was a little bigger when it started. But as far as combat goes, on the left-hand side, my Wild Riders lost terribly versus this giant, and they just fell back in good order. And I think the giant wasn't able to follow all the way up. I think that's what that one is. And as far as the combat in the center, I do remember that my riders, I rolled like 18, 20 strength 5 attacks at AP2. I only did 1 wound to the knights, so I was pretty down. But then when I rolled like my 5 horse attacks, they did 3 wounds. So overall, maybe it averaged out, but the horses did way more than the actual riders. The wild riders did win that combat, and the knights gave ground. I repositioned my dragon over to the right hand side, trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to be doing because I'm figuring the Warriors of Chaos are going to be coming forward, so I kind of want to make a little kill zone there. And I didn't quite move the Wild Riders up very far, um, which ended up being a mistake coming up shortly. Now for the Warrior Chaos, top of turn 2, Todd did slam that giant right back into the Wild Riders on the left-hand side. Also on the left, kind of moving up some of his Warhounds. Which we actually noticed towards the end of the game that we completely forgot these Warhounds were just sitting over here the entire game. They just basically sat behind that rock and we forgot about them. Yeah, as far as the combats went, the Chosen Knights did finish up the Wild Riders that were using hand weapons in combat. The Dragon repositioned itself to get a nice charge for turn 3. And same thing with that Dragon Ogre, kind of repositioned to assist with that Eagle that's kind of being a menace over there. The giant in combat with the Wild Riders did some wounds, but those Wild Riders are pesky, and they decided just to give ground and hold up a little more, which I was appreciative of. All right, moving on to Wood Elves, bottom of 2. The Eagle did charge the flank of the Warriors of Chaos, while the Wild Riders failed to charge on the front. So if I moved them a little bit closer, probably would have gotten in. So they are kind of stuck out in the middle of nowhere there. I think the archers were shooting at the knights at this point. I don't really remember doing any wounds. 2-up, 3-up armors are kind of tough to break through unless you get Plague of Rust on. I did march these archers on the left-hand side out of the way of the giant because I knew that those Wild Riders weren't going to be too long for the world. But the giant did win that combat and reformed, and instead of going after the kind of easy bait of chasing those archers towards the center, he reformed looking for bigger and better things toward my wizard. The Eagle actually did win combat versus the flank of the Warriors of Chaos, and just they gave ground and just kind of pushed sideways. So he's kind of just holding up the Wizard block, which actually worked out nicely because the Wizard is in combat and not casting any spells or dispelling. The top of the Warrior Chaos 3. This is where things start to get a little spicy here, just the way we like it. The Giant ends up charging some scouts and kills them in the center. The Dragon Ogre on the side charges the Eagle, wipes that out. The Dragon itself, for the Warriors of Chaos, ends up charging the Wild Riders. They countercharge. Um, Actually, you know what? I don't know if they did countercharge because they might have been within the movement of the dragon. Either way, they were definitely wiped out. I think I did a wound or two, but no, they definitely were wiped out, and he overran directly into my dragon, which is kind of where we have that heavyweight fight of the night getting set up here. The knights start to move forward, and it looks like my center is about to completely crumble. So I'm getting definitely a little worried here. Just wanted to pull up this picture because this was a fun picture. Todd's Chaos Dragon had rolled up +1 leadership, +1 strength, +1 weapon skill. His dragon and the rider are pretty beefy here. And my pesky little dragon, all it's got is, -1 to hit in a challenge. I don't have any ward save. I'm banking everything on a dragon slaying sword at this point. Todd's dragon is definitely more built for the long haul kind of fight. So turn 3 for the Wood Elves, the bottom of 3. They kind of do a scramble drill for all the archers and the wizard. Try to wiggle away from line of sight of the giant and the knights as best as possible. I think it did a decent job basically setting up so I could try to do some standard shoots and making the charges as hard as possible. I actually don't remember why these Warriors of Chaos with the wizard are facing in a different direction. I'm starting to think that I maybe caused a panic from shooting, and they maybe fled or fell back in good order. And I'm sorry, I just that's on me. I actually can't remember that what happened there, why they're facing that way. But the big dragon fight did happen. There was no monster slayer sword on my end. I did 4 wounds to the dragon. Combined with the wild rider damage, it actually has 4 wounds left. He does 5 wounds to my dragon. I'm left at 4. Todd did win the combat. I gave ground, and he actually elected to restrain and reform and go for some different targets and not risk the monster slayer. And as you can see, the dogs are still off on the left behind the rock that we forgot about. So top of turn 4 for the Warriors of Chaos. The dragon did charge a unit of archers on the bottom side of the screen here. At this point, he's also rolled up +1 attack for his Gaze of the Gods, and this thing is a beast. The giant does charge 1 unit of scouts, and I fire and flee. He directed into my Sisters of the Thorn and annihilates them. The knights, I believe, failed a charge coming through the woods here, and yeah, it looks like those Warriors of Chaos on foot with the wizard looks like they rallied here, so they must have fled. So it looks like they rallied here. All right, moving on to the Wood Elves, bottom of 4. The dragon does make a long bomb charge on that Warriors of Chaos and Wizard unit. Um, the rest of the archers kind of scramble to shoot down the giant that's just rampaging through the center lines there, and a little bit of peppering on the knights that are coming in. But yeah, once that giant's kind of gone, I do feel a little better here. Obviously, when I grow the woods in front of the dragon, trying to stop it from getting a rear charge on my dragon, I'm hoping that that's going to hold up. But at any moment, you could dispel those woods, and the plan kind of fails. The dragon does win combat versus the Warriors of Chaos, and they do fall back in good order, and the dragon follows up. All right, Warriors of Chaos, top of turn 5. The woods were not dispelled, so that dragon was not able to get that rear charge on my dragon. The knights do end up charging into the woods and killing some archers. They did take some stand and shoot wounds on the way in. The dragon ogre that was here did charge into the Warriors of Chaos combat to try to help out, but did not. Ended up dying. And the Warriors of Chaos Dragon ended up repositioning in the center to try to basically get the rear charge and finish off my dragon. I'm on, I think, 3 wounds left, whereas the Chaos Dragon is on 4. And the Wood Elf turn 5, the bottom of turn 5, I did get Plague of Rust onto the Knights and finish them off with some shooting and magic missiles for Wind Blast. The dragon did finish off the Warriors of Chaos unit with the wizard, and instead of overrunning off the table in true Brawler Bash fashion, I actually restrained with the dragon, reformed, and prepared for the round 2 of our heavyweight fight that we had going on. But not to be a buzzkill, we had to call it here as we were one of the last tables going. We had a lot of people watching, and we were kind of up against time, and everybody wanted to kind of get out of there, go to dinner. It would have been a blast to see how that last kind of couple dragon turns would have ended there. My dragon on 3 wounds, his dragon on 4 wounds, but we never got to finish that dragon combat. So next time I play Todd, we're gonna make sure we finish finish off the dragon foreman fight over there. But the final score ended up being the Wood Elves 2360 to the Warriors of Chaos 2066. So just about a 300-point win for the Wood Elves. One of the best and the closest old world games I've had in 2024 easily. And I had no idea at the time because this was obviously the 3rd tournament game that I've played. But looking back through the year, it's definitely one of the closest and best games I played. It's just a classic. A lot of back and forth, a lot of stuff dying on either end. Pretty much close all the way through to the very end. We had no idea who won as we're trying to add up the points here. Um, But yeah, that basically wraps up game three. I hope you all enjoyed it. I did get to chat with some of the other Spicy Dice boys that are going to be helping out with the channel. They're going to be making appearances on the channel with some of their army showcases of what they're going to be bringing to some of the upcoming GTs we have going on. And then obviously when those happen, we'll get some of the bat reps going out. But stay tuned for round four of Brawler Bash because I'm going to be playing against a crowd favorite, Luna Valentine and her Bretonia army. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.